So, in our dairy and food process and products technology, today we shall deal with the cheese, right? Because cheese, as I told you earlier, that we will deal with two very popular products, how it is manufactured, what are the different processes and associated things as far we can. So, today we shall do with the cheese, right. So, cheese, this is a fermented product, that is coming under the fermented product. So, not only fermentation, but also it also requires primarily of course fermentation, but it also requires your aging and other things. So, those things will, and its definition is a very big fundamental one, that is a big definition. And the thing which came up, if you look at the history of making cheese, is date back to old days where cheese were manufactured, not like that. So, accidentally it happened because people used to take their food or maybe milk and other things. In the earlier days, you didn't have any transport. So, that time maybe in the container made of the stomach of many animals, typically maybe cow and others. So, in that accidentally this happened, and from there subsequently people have modified, generated, developed, and now it is a very popular all over the world product, right. So, let us look into this now. Today we are in the 51th class and we will deal with cheese. Right. If you, as I said, if you look at the history, no one knows who first made cheese, but the most popular story is that an Arab put milk into a bag made from a sheep's stomach to take with him on a trip. By the time he was ready for a drink, the rennet from the sheep's stomach, along with the warmth and gentle agitation, had turned his milk into a type of product known as cheese. Subsequently, it was known as cheese. So, basically you see this rennet, that is the one which is primarily from the stomach of the animal, and this was in the case of sheep, right, because as I said for transportation they used to use these sheep or maybe camel and horse and others. So, but the container was made from the stomach of the sheep, which contained this rennet. Rennet is an enzyme. Rennet is an enzyme available in the stomach of the animal, like cow, sheep, all these, they do have this rennet. That is why, because subsequently you will see that since rennet is a part of making the cheese, subsequently people have changed it, because to get the rennet you have to slaughter the young cow or young calf. So, that became a problem, because to get the rennet, if you have to slaughter cows and calves from the animal source, then the animal, I mean the production of animal is not to that extent very high. So, mismatch was there. Subsequently, people have made it a norm that this rennet has to be substituted with some other things, which we will come across, right, hopefully. Now, let us look into what is the definition of rennet, cheese. By definition, cheese is said like that: cheese is the curd or substance formed by the coagulation of milk of certain mammals by rennet or similar enzymes in the presence of lactic acid produced by added or adventitious microorganisms, from which part of the moisture has been removed by cutting, warming and or pressing, which has been shaped in a mold and then ripened by holding for some time at suitable temperature and humidities. So, lot many things we have said, right? Lot many things we have said by definition. Number one, it is made from the rennet and also could be from adventitious microorganisms which produce lactic acid, and then these can be the product which we are getting, then with that coagulated product can be then further cut and warm or press, or it can be put into mold, then ripen, and then it is made to the product called cheese. But this ripening is also a function of temperature and humidity, right. So it is not so easy, it is a complex process by which this cheese is done. Right from the definition you can understand. And if you remember that earlier in our country, as of now, whatever at least I have come across from the market, primarily this cheese is available from Amul, primarily, and many others could be there, but primarily it is from Amul and some of the dairies, but they are not in our country so much popular as it is in other foreign countries, particularly those countries which are cold area, which are in the cold region. So there it is more, because of course they also need lot of fat. That is why, so cheese, when they need, they can take, they take in everything cheese, depending on the liking of the people, depending on the food habit of the people. So it is, but in our country it is also getting popularized, and Amul has made it a lot, but they have only 2, 3 or couple of varieties, right. But of course they are also getting imported, and if you go to any big malls or big shopping centers, there you can get according to your requirement. But primarily what we have, you see that Amul, they have cheese slice and cheese cube, right. But yeah, you can make it as you require, and according to that it can be prepared and supplied, right. So then from this definition, let us go into this. Unfortunately, I cannot make it bigger, because if we look at this, you see that if this is the cheese, so that we can subdivide into soft cheese, then semi-soft or semi-hard cheese, then hard or processed cheese, then very hard or processed cheese again, then whey cheese, or maybe processed as such processed cheese, right. And in examples we have given, that for very hard pressed cheese, now this is very hard pressed cheese, we can name that one is Parmesan, and in whey we can say it, whey cheese, you can say it ricotta rather. Then in processed cheese there are many that could be pasteurized processed cheese and others. And again in soft variety we can get it unripened or ripened. And one in the definition we had said that it is kept under certain container, and then it is kept under certain temperature and humidity. So during that time this process is known as ripening, right. We will also come into this. So there ripened or unripened, that also makes a division. And if it is a low fat like cottage cheese, or if it is a high fat, for example cream cheese, they are also under unripened condition. Then for ripened one we can have it bacterial ripened, for example pickled cheese, or it can be mold ripened, for example we can call it camembert, right. So then under the category of semi or hard or semi solid or semi soft, whatever we call it, that under that category it can be again bacterial ripened, for example brick or tilsit, or mold, this is mold ripened, right, not mild, mold ripened, MOLD, mold ripened. And that can be again internal, that it is it can be Stilton or Regufort, right. This generally blue cheese, known as blue cheese, or it could be surface lime ripened by bacteria and surface microorganism, for example Limburger, right. So under the hard category, we hard pressed category, again it could be bacterial ripened, for example cheddar cheese, Edam cheese or Gouda cheese, or it could be bacterial ripened that was closed texture and this is open texture, for example Swiss cheese or Hergard, right. Now out of these cheese there are many which are famous. For example that Swiss cheese, you might have heard it, right. So it's good that we could make it a bigger, we could make it bigger. So this is the one which we are looking for, and okay, that this, yes, I made it further bigger. So processed cheese, pasteurized processed cheese, which is ricotta, then very hard or pressed cheese is Parmesan, hard or pressed cheese here cheddar, Edam, Gouda, or bacterial ripened open texture, that was closed texture, Swiss or Hergard, or here also we get that Stilton Roquefort, which is commonly known as blue cheese. So all these variety, there are 10 not more than 2000 varieties of cheese available all over the world. So and naming is typical. Naming is typical in the sense, maybe say at IIT Kharagpur if you prepare one, so that can be named under the IIT Kharagpur. Again, whether it is bacterial or mold or ripened or unripened or soft or hard, depending on that. So different namings are there, and that is why the varieties are around 2000 or even more, right. It's widely such a wide variety product is normally not with any other things, right? So much variations, around 2000 or more than that, these varieties are there. Composition, if we look at, there are different names, right? Different names like brick, camembert, cheddar, cottage, cream, edam, then gorgonzola or limburger or gruyere, then Neufchâtel and Parmesan, Romano or Roquefort or Sapsigo, Swiss, Stilton, all these are different names of the different variety. But you see, the moisture content, it is varying so widely. The smallest or lowest one could be 17.0 and the highest one could be somewhere 69.8, right. So, within this such a wide range, this moisture content varies, right. And fat content also varies very widely, like the smallest one could be 1% fat and the highest one could be around 39.9%. Yes, this is the highest. So, the smallest one is 1 and 40% fat, that is the fat variation so widely, right. 1 to 40, it is not so wide variation. Then protein content, it is relatively less, but still it is very wide. It is around, the lowest one is around say 19.3 and the highest one is say 49.4. No, the lowest one is not this one, the lowest one is 14.5 and not 19, 14.5 and the highest one is 49.4, right. So, such again wide variation of protein. Then ash and mineral content or salt content, if we look into that, that is also very wide, and this range between 1.9 and say 11.9, such a wide variation in ash or mineral content, 1.9 and say 12, will to 11.9 is roughly 12, right, or 1.9 can also be made. So, 2 to 12%, so much wide variation of the minerals, right. So, minerals or what we call it to be the ash content, and such wide variation of the composition in terms of moisture, fat, protein and minerals is only possible in cheese. You will not see in many other commodities such wide variation in composition, right, but the product is same, cheese. Obviously, their appearance, their flavor, their taste, everything are different, as well the nutritional value, because that composition will also indicate their nutritional value. So, high protein, high fat, low protein, low fat, low moisture, high moisture, low mineral, high mineral. So, any combination you can prepare and then make it popular. That is why, as I said, all over the world more than 2000 varieties of this cheese is available, more than 2000 varieties, right. So, if we look at then there are two soft and hard varieties which we will talk about. One is low fat unripened cheese and the another is cottage cheese, right. Low fat unripened cheese, more than that, cottage cheese is at least popular in our place. So, we can harp on the cottage cheese, The cottage cheese usually made from skim milk, also may be made from reconstituted, and reconstituted we have said the other day, right. You have powdered milk and that is reconstituted, and concentrated skim milk or non-fat dry milk. So, any one could be used for cottage cheese. So, when cheese contains not less than 4% fat, this is called creamed cottage cheese. So, minimum 4%. If you have seen earlier that which we had given that here that cottage cheese, right, fat content is around 1%, right. So, fat content is around 1%, whereas moisture is around 70%, protein is around say 24%, and ash content is say around 2%, right. So, if this contains your 4% fat, then it is called typically creamed cottage cheese, right. Two commercial methods are there. One is coagulation by acidity developed by the action of lactic starter, or coagulation by the combined actions of the lactic acid starter and small quantity of rennet, right. So, that is why this cottage cheese is so popular that you may not use rennet, because availability of rennet may be a problem. So, that is why that acid formation is done by the lactic acid bacteria, and there you can produce your desired lactic acid with the known variety of the organism, and you can eliminate the requirement of rennet. So, that is why cottage cheese is getting popularity in our country. It is becoming easier to manufacture. Then the process says that first you pasteurize, you have already the resource of the milk. So, pasteurize high quality of skim milk at 62 to 63 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes or 72 degrees centigrade for 15 seconds. The other day I said nowadays people are making this holding time typically for at high temperature more than even 15 seconds, maybe couple of 10 seconds more, so that there is no chance of any residual organism which can cause disease, that is disease producing organisms, because you remember that one organism that was Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, that was very much heat resistant, and for that reason the holding time could be a little bigger or longer than required, right. So, that is why maybe in instead of 15 seconds it could be a couple of tens of seconds more, maybe 25-35 seconds. Okay. Then carefully adjust the milk temperature to 30 to 32 centigrade in case of short setting, and 22 degree centigrade in case of long setting method. Add 4 to 5% in short setting or 0.1 to 1% in long setting, or fresh active starter. A mixed lactic acid starter or lactic streptococci and the associated Leuconostoc species are also used, and you can add rennet in case of lactic acid and rennet cheese, where combination of that is you are using, at the rate of 1 milliliter for each 450 gram of milk. So, 1 milliliter of rennet for 450 kg of milk diluted to 40 times its volume with pure water, right. Then the process follows like this, that cover the vat preferably with a metal cover and leave it undisturbed until milk has coagulated. Cut the curd at a whey acidity of 0.5 to 0.55%, and this may be about 4.5 to 5 hours, that is for short setting, or 12 to 14 hours, that is for long setting is used. After the starter was added, the time is measured. Curd knives used are usually 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch in size. Then 15 minutes after cutting the curd, the temperature is gradually raised up to 43 to 52 degrees centigrade. It will generally require from 45 minutes to 1.5 hours, that is for short setting, or 2 or 2.5 hours for long setting to reach this temperature. The temperature of the whey is increased at the rate of 2.5 to 4 degrees centigrade during 15 minutes of interval, 15 minutes interval until the desired cooking temperature has been reached. Stirring operation should be done with utmost care. The next step is, when the curd particles have reached the desired firmness, drain the whey until the top of the curd begins to show. The curd is washed 2 to 3 times. First washing with cold water at 21 degrees centigrade, that is slow stirring for 10 minutes. Second washing with water at 10 to 12 degrees centigrade for 10 to 15 minutes stirring, and third washing with water at 4.5 degrees centigrade, and generally at this low temperature washing could be avoided. Then after this, after the last wash, water has been removed, the vat of curd is covered and allowed to drain thoroughly. The curd may or may not be slated, or this is the perhaps mistake, this is salted, may or may not be salted, right, and salting is done to apply using not more than 1% of the salt of the weight of the curd. That is the salt which can be. The salted or unsalted, whatever it be, is held at 1.5 degrees centigrade, and then the cottage cheese may be creamed if so desired by using 14% fat of cream, so that the content is not less than 4%, what we said, that cream cottage, right, cottage cream. And then this way you can prepare the cottage cheese. It is very easy, right. Now perhaps we are running out of time in this class. Next we will go in the next class another which is called cheddar cheese, right. Okay, thank you.